If you ask a stranger what hides inside Area 51, they will tell you about Roswell. They will tell you about crashed saucers and gray aliens in jars. For 50 years, this has been the world's favorite conspiracy theory. But while the world was looking at the sky, waiting for ET, a very real tragedy was happening on the ground. The men working inside the base weren't being killed by Martians. They were dissolving from the inside out. Their skin was peeling off like snake scales. Their lungs were filling with tumors. They were killed by the very government they swore to protect. And when their widows tried to ask why, the President of the United States signed an order to silence them. The aliens didn't ruin their lives. The cover-up did. This is the true story of the toxic secret buried in the Nevada desert. To understand the crime, you have to understand the weapon. In the 1980s, the Cold War was freezing. America needed a plane that could fly through Soviet radar like a ghost. They built the F-117 Nighthawk, a masterpiece of engineering. But making a 15-ton jet invisible requires more than just shape. It requires chemistry. The plane was coated in a top-secret radar-absorbent material. The recipe is still classified, but we know it contained a toxic soup of heavy metals, solvents, and deadly polymers. It was applied like paint, layer by layer. But here is the problem with secret chemicals. You can't just throw them in the trash. If the Air Force hired a civilian company to haul away the waste, there would be a paper trail. Receipts, manifests. Russian spies could look at the trash and figure out how the stealth technology worked. So, the commanders at Area 51 made a brutal decision. No paper trails. No witnesses. They would destroy the evidence the old-fashioned way. They dug massive trenches in the desert floor, the size of football fields. Every week, trucks arrived, loaded with toxic scrap, old stealth coatings, hardened resins, solvents, and even computers. They threw it all into the pits, doused it in jet fuel, and lit a match. The workers called it the London Fog. Thick, oily, black smoke rolled across the base. It didn't just smell like burning plastic. It tasted like metal. And the security guards, they were ordered to stand right next to the pits. They requested gas masks. Denied. They asked for hazmat suits. Denied. For 12 hours a day, they stood in a cloud of burning poison. One of these men was Robert Frost, a supervisor, a strong, healthy man who never complained. But after a few months in the fog, Robert began to change. It started with a rash. Then, his face began to swell. The symptoms were straight out of a horror movie. Robert's skin became so dry and brittle, it started to crack open. His widow, Helen, later described it as fish scales. In the mornings, she would find pieces of his skin on the bed sheets. It was falling off his body in flakes. Then came the internal damage. His lungs were filling with fluid. He couldn't breathe. He suffered violent headaches that made him scream, and he wasn't alone. Another worker, Fred Weiss, was collapsing, but when they went to the doctors, they couldn't tell them the truth. They were sworn to secrecy. If they told the doctor I work at Area 51 and I breathe burning stealth coating, they could go to prison for treason. So they suffered in silence. Robert Frost died in 1989. He was only 57. The autopsy found dangerous industrial chemicals in his chemicals that had no business being in a human body. Now, look at the timeline. Robert Frost died in 1989. Do you know what else happened in 1989? Bob Lazar went on TV. Suddenly, the entire world was looking at Area 51. But they weren't looking at the smoke, they were looking for flying saucers. It was the perfect circus. While tourists were camping at the gates, hoping to see a UFO, the widows of the workers were begging for answers. But their cries were drowned out by the media frenzy about aliens. Whether Bob Lazar was telling the truth or not, his story was the best gift the Pentagon ever received. It distracted everyone from the real bodies piling up. In the 90s, the widows sued the Air Force. They didn't want money. They just wanted the list of chemicals so they could treat the surviving workers who were still sick. The case went to federal court. The evidence was overwhelming. 2 judges were ready to rule in favor of the families. The Air Force was cornered. But then, the government used the nuclear option. In 1995, President Bill Clinton signed a presidential determination. This document officially exempted Area 51 from all environmental disclosure laws. It declared that revealing what was burned in those pits would compromise national security. Case dismissed. The government admitted the base existed just to say that the laws of the United States did not apply there. The workers got $0. The chemicals remain a secret to this day. So, the next time you see a meme about storming Area 51 to see them aliens, remember Robert Frost. Remember the men who burned the secrets to keep America safe and were left to die when they became inconvenient. The real monster in the desert isn't an alien. It's the cover-up.